Despite some major plot differences, Ginny and Georgia actually has quite a bit in common with Gilmore Girls, yet the 2021 series is able to admit a flaw that the beloved 2000s comedy never could. Ginny and Georgia is an ongoing Netflix series that follows the eponymous Ginny and Georgia, a mother-daughter duo who are constantly at odds, especially after Ginny starts discovering Georgia's dark secrets. Meanwhile, Gilmore Girls follows Lorelai and Rory, another mother-daughter duo who handle the ups and downs of their unique lives in an idyllic Connecticut town. The most obvious difference between Ginny and Georgia and Gilmore Girls is that Georgia hides a dark past from Ginny full of domestic abuse, manipulation, and murder. Georgia's life is one secret away from imploding, and her daughter Ginny is right in the danger zone. Gilmore Girls lacks all of this darkness, and instead, has a more eccentric and light-hearted tone. Yet, the shows are rooted in the same concept, mothers and daughters and their close relationships. The only problem is, Ginny and Georgia has been able to explore an issue that Gilmore Girls could never fully accept. Ginny and Georgia addresses a harsh parenting reality that Gilmore Girls never could. Ginny and Georgia's darkness is pivotal. In both Ginny and Georgia and Gilmore Girls, the main characters have a mother-daughter relationship that is different from most. Because of their rather young ages, Georgia and Lorelai are more like best friends to their daughters than strict parents. While parenting certainly does happen, the boundaries are much more blurry. Over 2 seasons, Ginny and Georgia has been able to explore the consequences of this casual mother-daughter relationship in a way that Gilmore Girls never could. Ginny and Georgia shows the downfalls of a mother who is more like a friend. Meanwhile, Gilmore Girls usually used that problem as a brief conflict. In many ways, Ginny and Georgia's darkness is what allows the show to be so open about this kind of mother-daughter relationship. Although Georgia's issues are far from normal or realistic, they make her relationship with Ginny that much more obvious. Georgia cares for her daughter and treats her like an equal, but must protect her from her crimes. This creates a difficult dynamic where Ginny wants to trust Georgia, but can't. She also can't view her as a firmly responsible parental figure either. Thus, the pair are in a strange limbo that only hurts Ginny as time goes on. Ginny and Georgia's mother-daughter relationship feels more realistic than Gilmore Girls. Gilmore Girls was never meant to be realistic. Ginny and Georgia lying on a bed and staring at each other in Ginny and Georgia. Because Ginny and Georgia is more open to examining the problems with Ginny and Georgia's relationship, their bond feels much more realistic than the one between Lorelai and Rory. Ginny is a very stereotypical teenager who fights with her mom and rebels. Her unclear relationship with her mother affects her in numerous ways that are both sweet and problematic. On the other hand, Gilmore Girls never really views Lorelai and Rory's relationship as a problem, and everything is usually resolved in the course of just a few episodes. Gilmore Girls is made for happy endings, but Ginny and Georgia is not. To be fair, the intent of Gilmore Girls was likely not supposed to be realistic. In fact, the comedy drama is really supposed to be a fantasy. Lorelai and Rory live in the gorgeous and quirky Stars Hollow, have support from Lorelai's rigid yet wealthy parents, and Rory is the perfect daughter. The stakes were never meant to be as high as Ginny and Georgia. Ultimately, the shows are trying to do different things. Gilmore Girls is soothing and carefree, whereas Ginny and Georgia is intense and suspenseful. Yet, Gilmore Girls still may have benefited from a reality check. Gilmore Girls never went deep enough into Lorelai and Rory's issues. How Gilmore Girls could have been different. Lorelai and Rory eating snacks on the couch in Gilmore Girls. In some ways, Gilmore Girls might have been better if it had taken more time to examine Lorelai and Rory's non-traditional relationship. For the most part, the show focused on the two women separately, narrowing in on Rory Gilmore's social relationships and schooling and Lorelai's love life. However, like Ginny and Georgia, the show could have done a better job at exploring how Rory's decisions were informed by her relationship with her mother and even her grandparents. It doesn't make sense for Rory to walk away from such a unique family dynamic unscathed. Arguably, Gilmore Girls would not have changed all that much if Lorelai and Rory's relationship was explored in more depth. It may have gotten more serious at times, but that would not have jeopardized Gilmore Girls' feel-good ambience. In some ways, it might have made the good times feel even better. Additionally, the show may have improved in quality because the characters would be more aware of their shortcomings rather than charging into silly or frustrating situations. Luckily, Ginny and Georgia is now doing what Gilmore Girls never could.